Hello, everybody. A very good day to one and all from ManageEngine. So, welcome to ManageEngine's free workshop on how to mitigate the Meltdown and Spectre vulnerabilities that are taking the IT world by storm. Meltdown and Spectre. You might have heard these names because they're the new hotness in the world of IT security. So let's see how we can make use of ManageEngine's patching solution and mitigate these CPU flaws which have disastrous exploitations if exploited by hackers. But before that, before we begin with this workshop, I need to know if my voice is audible and if you are able to view the presentation. So you guys do me a quick little favor. Please do send in a confirmation via chat if if my voice is audible and if you're able to view the presentation. Please do send in a confirmation via chat. So once I've received a few confirmations, I am good to begin with this workshop. I will wait for your confirmation. If my voice is audible and if you're able to view the presentation, please do send in a confirmation via chat. Thank you guys. I've received a few confirmations. I think I'm good to begin with this workshop where we're going to see how we can mitigate the security flaws found on any device that's going to run modern processors, Intel processors, ARM processors, as well as your AMD processors. And very recently, even Qualcomm has confirmed that it's been affected by Meltdown and Spectre. So this is the agenda for a workshop today. We will see what this security flaw is about, who is the target, how do these vulnerabilities differ, how do they differ, making Spectre more difficult to exploit. Where exactly do these threats come from? We've been using these modern processors for over, say, 40 years. But now, out of the blue, how do these threats come up from? We will also see what will happen to a computer if it is found vulnerable to these security flaws. And let us also discuss various mitigation methods which we could adapt to secure our network using ManageEngine. Last but not the least, for the benefit of everybody who's listening to this workshop, if you have any questions or queries, all of us are anxious about what is going to happen if these flaws are being exploited by hackers or attackers. So, any questions, queries, or doubts that you would have with respect to Spectre and Meltdown, please do shoot them. You can ask them via chat. I have an expert panel right here with me who will answer all of your questions in real time. So this is the agenda for today's workshop. And I'm Vaishnavi. It's Vaishnavi. I work as a product specialist at ManageEngine, and I will be your presenter for today. So, what's all the buzz about Meltdown and Spectre? These vulnerabilities pretty much affect every computer, every device out there that runs on modern processors. Your Intel processors, your ARM processors, as well as your AMD processors. And as much as I regret saying this, none of us can get away from Meltdown and Spectre. Everything that you use, from your PCs to your tablets to your laptops, your iPhones, server machines in your enterprise network, all these devices are running on vulnerable CPUs. And the upshot of these bugs is that it is going to allow unprivileged processors to read sensitive data in your computer's memory that it shouldn't be able to do in the first place. So let me give you a quick view about Meltdown. As you can see the picture here, Meltdown is going to melt the security boundaries that are enforced by the device hardware. It is going to break the fundamental isolation between your user applications and the operating system. For a layman to understand, Meltdown is going to allow a hacker to access sensitive data from an affected device's memory. And by sensitive data, it could be your password files that were saved using Password Manager. It could be business critical applications. It could be data about your customers. So all these sensitive data are going to be available in the hands of the hacker because Meltdown is melting all the security boundaries that were held together by the device hardware. On the other hand, about Spectre, So when I Googled about Spectre, the definition that I could find was it being a ghost or that kind of a thing that is really difficult to control. Remember, Spectre is that security flaw that does not have a lot of mitigation methods, and I think that's frankly why they have named the flaw Spectre. It is going to be around here for a while in the IT world, but it is important on our part to defend our devices from Spectre. Spectre, what exactly does this do? It is going to break the fundamental isolation between different application programs on your device, which means it is going to allow your attackers to trick programs into leaking their secrets. The good news is Spectre is difficult to exploit. But again, the bad news here is Spectre is even harder to resolve. So this is a quick view about both Meltdown and Spectre security flaws that are taking the IT world by storm today. So what's that difference between Meltdown and Spectre? Both of these are CPU vulnerabilities, but how do they differ? As you can see, Meltdown is affecting your Intel processors, whereas Spectre is affecting Intel, ARM, and AMD processors. Coming down, what does Intel take advantage of? How has this been a security flaw? Intel is taking advantage of the Meltdown is taking advantage of the Intel's privilege escalation flaw as well as speculative execution. So Meltdown is using Intel's privilege escalation flaw to allow your kernel memory access, which means it's going to allow your hackers access the kernel memory from the user space. Let me put it in simple terms. Any secret that your computer is trying to protect is going to be available for your hackers if he is able to run an arbitrary code on a computer or a machine. So this is what Meltdown is harnessing. And on the other hand, if you'd see, Spectre is taking advantage of branch prediction and speculative execution, which means it is allowing your hackers, it is allowing your processors to it's tricking your processors to execute instructions they should not be able to do in the first place. And who's the target for all of these security vulnerabilities? Almost all major tech giants. So on the processor side, if we see all of these are the affected processors by these flaws. And then if you take the most prominent OSs, we have Microsoft confirming that Windows OS and the server OS are all affected by these security flaws. Then we have Apple confirming that Mac OS, the iOS, as well as tvOS have all been affected by these bugs. Thirdly, we have the various flavors of Linux being affected by these flaws, and even virtual machines and cloud services like Amazon and Azure have confirmed that they will be affected, that they are affected by the security vulnerabilities Meltdown and Spectre. So what's that one risk factor that is common in both of these vulnerabilities? Any unprivileged malicious actor could gain access to sensitive data in your system's memory by taking advantage of speculative execution. Let's say an unauthorized party is able to access sensitive data like your password files, or say data that is very critical for your business, let's say encryption files, let's say your credit card details. You can imagine the extent to which exploitation can occur if this is going to happen, if the hacker is going to find a way into your enterprise device. For instance, let us take your enterprise for example. Let us take an employee who works in your enterprise who is unaware of all these exploitations that are occurring. So this particular employee in your enterprise is opening a web page, maybe to book tickets for his vacation. Now let me tell you one of the possible exploitations that could happen. A hacker or an attacker could remotely exploit Meltdown and Spectre by making use of a JavaScript code on an ordinary looking web page. Let me repeat, a hacker could remotely exploit using JavaScript code on an ordinary looking web page. This is just an example of where exploitation could happen on an ordinary web page. Imagine the extent to which exploitations could occur if hackers really find a way into your system's memory. Such can be the disasters that these vulnerabilities could cause to your enterprise devices as well as even your personal devices. So where did these threats come from? So I have a very interesting insight to share with you here. For you to understand where these threats came from, you need to first understand a behind the scene process called speculative execution. So it's a technique that is used by most modern processors to optimize the performance. So speculative execution. Come on, we are all in a very fast pacing world. We would like to go to restaurants that deliver our food fast. I'd like to purchase cars that are very fast, give me greater mileage. I would like to purchase a computer that works fast than the previous one that I had owned. So fast is what we are looking for in all the solutions that we purchase. The same thing just happened with the feature speculative execution. It speeds up the routine tasks, but it also creates a security vulnerability nobody expected, or at least half of us had ignored. So, what exactly is this speculative execution? When a processor reaches a conditional branch in code, it tries to predict which branch will be taken before it even knows the result, and it executes that branch ahead of time. So, this is called speculative execution. But the idea is if the prediction is right, well and good, it would have reached the next instruction as well. But what if the prediction that the processor made was wrong? Then the incorrect result will be sent to the unprotected part of the computer's memory called cache. So this is what a misspeculated execution leads to. It sends the incorrect result to the unprotected part of computer's memory called cache, which can be easily accessible to the hackers via a side channel. So this data that ends up in an unsecured part of the computer cache memory is where unauthorized users can access it through a side channel. But I had my very own question. How come we're all master brains here, but how come this particular data was left unsecured? So I did my own part of the research. Back in 1960s, if you'd see, when speculative execution, when this feature was introduced, all the computers that they had used by then were all self-contained. Since there was no way to see the data being thrown away, nobody thought it was a risk and it was never secured. But if you'd see today's condition, sharing is what occurs in most of the networks. Take the case of your enterprise. How many computers, how many devices, how many laptops, how many mobiles share resources with applications and environments? Sharing is particularly good, but when unprotected data from speculative execution ends up in a shared memory, then that is going to be a serious problem. I would tell you why. Cyber criminals can use a side channel to sneak in and hijack the data in the cache memory. They can even trick your computers to load sensitive data, like again, your business critical data and your password files and your credit card billing details into this part of the memory, which can easily be accessed through the side channels by hackers and attackers. So, this is what has made Meltdown and Spectre very vulnerable. Speculative execution side channel attacks. That's how Microsoft names it. But as soon as news got public about Meltdown and Spectre, a lot of researchers and developers from the major tech giants had come together and released patches. Hundreds of engineers from major tech giants came together, and all these patches were available from these tech giants, which will hopefully mitigate the effects caused by Spectre and Meltdown. So, I have listed a few of these patches for you, a few of the tech giants who had released updates for you. So, right here we have Microsoft. So, from January 3rd, Microsoft has been releasing security updates for its Windows OSs as well as the server OSs. Coming down, we have Mac, which has come up with a security update for Mac OS 10.13.2, as well as for Safari, Sierra, AI Capital. And then we have Linux, which has come out with patches for its various flavors: Ubuntu, Debian, Red Hat, Fedora, and SUSE. And Linux patches, they transfer the kernel's memory to a separate memory space using the kernel page isolation. Coming down to Google's updates, Google has released security updates for the devices that run on Android, Nexus, and Pixel. It has come around with a workaround for Chrome. We are still waiting for updates for Chrome OS 63. Until that, Google has recommended all of us to follow the workaround that it has provided, which is about site page isolation, if I'm right. And then we have updates for Mozilla Firefox 57.0.4. So these are just a few major tech giants and their updates that have been released so far to mitigate the flaws, Meltdown, and Spectre. So, as a system administrator or a network engineer or say an IT professional, you have the updates, security updates ready to deploy. But the question is, how are you going to deploy these updates? As an administrator for a network, you have hundreds of devices to take care of. Would you be manually running around to deploy these updates? I think not at all. And you must be worried about the devices in different branch locations of your organization. Say you work from your head office, San Francisco, but you have to worry and take care of computers or devices in New York and say Ontario, Canada. How are you going to deploy updates to different branch locations across the world is another question. Firstly, do you have a network visibility of how many machines are vulnerable in your network to these security vulnerabilities? Do you have a count if there are these many machines that are vulnerable to these security flaws? No. So these are just not the cases, but there are a lot of other hurdles that you might face when deploying these security updates to devices in your enterprise network. So let me show you how ManageEngine can serve as the right tool for you to deploy security updates. And it's just not about Spectre and Meltdown. For any future threat that is going to come or for any of the previous attacks that had happened, ManageEngine has always stood by serving the right solution, giving you the security updates then and there that would help secure your devices at the right time. But before I take you to the product, recently Microsoft had reported on an issue. Now, on Jan 3rd, 2018, right after the new year, when we have started dealing with the CPU nightmare, Microsoft had released security updates for its OSs. And if you did not have an up-to-date antivirus software running in your enterprise device, then this security update, when deployed using Windows Update, would lead to a blue screen error or say a stop error and will not let your machine to boot at all. So this was a very critical issue that had come with Microsoft's security updates, and this was the compatibility issue with respect to your antivirus software applications. So Microsoft had reported on this particular issue, and it had recommended enterprises to have an up-to-date antivirus software application running on their network, and only when the latest definition update is deployed to your antivirus, it is going to be compatible with your Microsoft. Let's say you update your antivirus software to the latest definition update. Now this will go make a fix. It will go enter a key in your registry, which will be identified by Microsoft as, okay, so this antivirus is compatible with my security updates. Let me deploy it. So this is what Microsoft had recommended. But my dear friends, remember, the Windows updates is not going to give you an alert saying that your antivirus is incompatible to the security update. Instead, it's just going to wait. It is partnering with all the antivirus updates and has created a list where we have all the software, all the antivirus applications listed here, and if they are supporting the latest update or not. So here we have 360, I have my Avast, and then coming down we have Kaspersky, and then Sophos, your Norton, Symantec. So all these antivirus software applications are working towards providing a compatibility fix. So only if your antivirus is compatible with the security update, only if your Windows update is going to confirm on that, then you can deploy the security update. So that is another bottleneck that you will have to deal with. So one, how are you going to deploy the security updates as easily as possible to all the devices in your enterprise network? Number two, what are we going to do about this compatibility antivirus software issue with respect to Microsoft updates? So I'm going to take you to my product view. So let me take Desktop Central as an example. So Desktop Central is an endpoint management solution of ManageEngine that lets us perform a variety of endpoint management and security operations. So I have come to the tab Patch Management, from where I can perform any of the patch management process. So coming down, The first best practice that I would recommend you to do as an administrator is to update your vulnerability database. We have a schedule that runs every day to update this vulnerability database, but in times like this, in an emergency situation like this, when you get to hear news about a security vulnerability or a 0-day vulnerability, it is good you come and update your vulnerability database so that you get the latest patches on your server then and there. So once I click on update now, this will synchronize with the central patch repository. Yes, ManageEngine has its very own central patch repository that is up to date with all the latest patches and security, non-security updates released by the vendors like Microsoft and any third-party application vendor and other OS vendors. We also have a dedicated patch team who work on keeping track of all these updates and patches. They test them, they download them from the vendors, test them for their stability, and then release them into the central patch repository for deployment. So this is how it all works at ManageEngine. You as an administrator might not have the time to follow up on all the news and vulnerabilities. You can see how the rise in vulnerabilities has become. But we at ManageEngine are striving for the sole purpose of keeping your network secure. So we always keep track of any security update that is released by different vendors, and we will immediately make it available for your server. So once I update my vulnerability database, I can scan the systems to find out what are the systems that are missing these vulnerability patches, Meltdown and Spectre patches in their machines. So let's take, for instance, I've scanned my systems. Now in the missing patches column, so from all patches, I've gone to my missing patches view. Here you can always search for the patches that are missing. Let's say I search for Meltdown and Spectre. So let me go search for it. So as you can see, a lot of these patches are found missing on the computer. So let me search for Meltdown and Spectre and click on search. So I have a lot of updates listed here for Meltdown and Spectre. So these are found missing on the machines in my network. We have a security update for Windows 7 Meltdown and Spectre. So we have another one for Windows 8.1. Now all you have to do is you now have the list of all the patches that are missing with regards to Spectre and Meltdown. Now select all these patches and click on install patch. So we have the patches that we have selected. Come down, you will find all the machines that are missing this patch automatically pre-filled here. So your task is very simple. You just have to go down and click on deploy. So once you deploy this, all these security updates will be deployed to the machines that were missing these patches for Meltdown and Spectre. So once deployed, these machines are safe and defended from these vulnerabilities that could be exploited anytime. So this is just not about it. In my latest patches, I've actually searched for Linux updates. So here you can view all the security updates that we support for Linux to mitigate the Spectre and Meltdown vulnerabilities. And again, here I've searched for Chrome. So we are offering support even for Google Chrome's update. And then we also have Firefox update that we are supporting. So what I would like to stress here is, be it Windows or be it your Linux or be it even your third-party applications like Adobe or Firefox or Chrome, all of these security updates, you're just using this one single platform to deploy security updates of all these different applications and OSs to the devices that are missing them. I mean, how simple and easy is that? You do not have to use another tool, all from the same platform. Deploy these updates and stay safe from any of these vulnerabilities. So once you have deployed them, you can generate a report on how many machines have these updates installed. So coming down, you can move to the all patches view. Again, under the applicable patches tab, let me click on the detailed view of these patches. So let me search for Meltdown and Spectre. So let me search. I've entered it under the patch description box. Okay, so now I have the status of each of these patches displayed. So as you can see, all of these patches have been listed. So these security updates have been installed and a few of the security updates are missing. And did you notice I have an unknown error code here? Okay, this is the catch. This is what I've been trying to explain to you. So this particular update has not been installed successfully because it is not compatible with my antivirus software application that is running in my network. So this was the compatibility issue that we were talking on previously. So for you to deploy this particular security update successfully, what you need to do, you need to install the latest definition update for the antivirus software, and then you can successfully deploy the security update. So this is where we stand uniquely apart from Windows Update or any other third-party patch management tool, be it for it. We give you an automated alert showing you that for this particular update, it is incompatible. Your antivirus is incompatible for this particular update. You are missing out on this update. So as soon as possible, you update your antivirus and you can successfully deploy this update. So this is how we make it easy for you. We provide you with automated alerts to make sure that all the security updates available for Meltdown and Spectre are automatically deployed to devices that are missing out on them, which is not provided by Windows Update. So once you have the details of the patches that have been installed on the machines, you have an expert option here. So you can export it as a report. And in case you have an audit to attend to, you will have to submit a report to your top management to show them how many machines are safe from these vulnerabilities. You can always generate these reports. So this is how simple and easy. So let me just give you a quick summary. So you will update your antivirus to the latest definition update available. You can detect for the computers that are missing the Spectre and Meltdown patches. You can deploy them right away and even generate a report as soon as the deployment is completed. I mean, how simple, right? From detection to deployment and then reporting. All of this is automated with our patching solution. And I had taken Desktop Central as an example. So what is making us stand out from our competitors? First, we had spoken about how we have alerts available for you if your security update is not compatible with the antivirus software that is running in your network. So this was one about automated alerts. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, what if I do not use an antivirus in my network, which is quite rare, but if you're not going to use an antivirus in your network, what Microsoft recommends is that you can manually go insert a registry key and then deploy the security update, but then the chances of risk are high. So what we at ManageEngine has automated again for you is we have internally handled this registry fix. So if you do not have an antivirus in your network, you can go ahead, deploy the update, and we have internally handled the registry fix for you. And then we have a lot of scripts available for you to mitigate the Spectre and Meltdown flaws. Let me show you how. At Desktop Central, I will boast about this one particular feature which can be very useful and handy for administrators. So we have a script repository with more than hundreds of scripts that can ease your task as an administrator or a network engineer. So here we have different scripts available for you. So the first script is about where we can enable site isolation in Google Chrome browser. Remember, I was talking about a workaround that Google Chrome browser had come up with until it releases its 63 update. So here we have the script right here available for you. All you have to do is just run the script to all the devices in your network to give them the site isolation workaround for Chrome. Coming down, I have another script that says check AV compatibility for speculative side channel vulnerability Windows update. So I had shown you how we create an alert in your view where you can see if the update is compatible with the antivirus or not. So if you're going to run this particular script, it's going to be a one-time job. If you want to know as an administrator if all the devices in your network are compatible with antivirus or not, then you can very well make use of the script. It's going to make your task as easy as a cakewalk. And then coming down, I also have scripts for enabling mitigations and disabling mitigations provided by Microsoft for Windows Server to protect against the speculative execution. So you can take advantage of all of these scripts and make sure that all the devices in your network, so we're not talking about one device or two devices, but it's hundreds of devices in your network that could be secured from these vulnerabilities. Last but not the least, I have a add-on, I have a gift, I should say, for you. Batch Manager Plus is another offering from ManageEngine, and it helps you to carry out all patch management related tasks as easy as possible. So as soon as we heard news about Meltdown and Spectre, we had created specific reports for Meltdown and Spectre in Patch Manager Plus. So let me show you that particular report. So I have it right here with me. So this is the report that speaks about critical vulnerability. So this report is going to give you a view of all the updates that are being released for critical and zero-day vulnerabilities like say Meltdown and Spectre. So what is that advantage of this report is that let me go select Meltdown and Spectre. So I have all the updates that are available for Meltdown and Spectre. So I can select all these updates and install patch. Over here, I have the updates selected and all the computers that are missing these updates. I mean, how easy and simple is it? Because all you have to do is you have a view that provides you with all the updates that are released for critical vulnerabilities, and you just have to select the updates and deploy them. So this we had come up in a very short span of time to help you, to give you more visibility on the updates that are available on the machines that are missing them. So once you know the updates available, once you know the machines missing them, you can right away deploy these updates. And that is why we have offered you with this Meltdown and Spectre specific reports. So these are the various mitigation methods apart from supporting the security updates of Windows OS, Linux, Chrome, Firefox, Adobe, and all of that. These are the other mitigation methods that we were able to come up with in order to help you secure your enterprise devices. So 2017, let us not forget WannaCry ransomware. About the WannaCry ransomware, in March, there was a patch released by Microsoft. But we had slept over it. We had delayed deploying this patch. And what happened on May 12th, 2017? The WannaCry ransomware had struck nearly 300,000 endpoints in more than 150 plus countries. I mean, how many ATMs were stalled? How many institutions, educational institutions, banking sectors, financial sectors, all of these were crippled because of this WannaCry ransomware and because we did not deploy the security patch at the right time. We either delayed deploying the patch or we just ignored the patch. And you could see the exploitations, how many organizations like yours, how many enterprises had to pay huge amounts of ransom because of the WannaCry ransomware that was exploited. So the patch was available in March, but the exploitation had happened in May, giving a time gap of 1 month. Why couldn't the same thing just happen here with Spectre and Meltdown as well? Because we have the security updates right here with us. But what if we ignore and delay the deployment of those patches? Then these patches, these security flaws will be exploited. And remember, all our devices are affected by Spectre and Meltdown, and the exploitation could be disastrous. So the whole IT world is under threat. Your enterprise is under threat. And so is your job as a system administrator, because when there's going to be a security news on the headlines, your CEO is going to point his fingers at you. Have you secured the devices or not? Have you patched them or not? So what is that shield? Is your enterprise wearing a shield or not? Providing endpoint security? Have you drawn the first line of device to provide? Have you drawn the first line of defense to provide endpoint security or not? Does your enterprise wear a shield or not is the question that we would like to ask you. If not, then I think it's the right time you start thinking about investing in a right patch management tool. This is one of the most interesting prediction that I had come across. So it was from Gartner. It was a security prediction for 2018 through 2020, which means right from 2018 to 2020, 99% of vulnerabilities exploited will be known by security and IT professionals for at least 1 year, and we will do nothing about it. So this is the state that we are in. So for 2018, we can see how the ransomware, data breaches, your cyber attacks are expected to grow. In fact, these attacks are going to become more targeted on net worth individuals or say enterprises that hold the most sensitive data like health sectors or financial services. In the case of Spectre and Meltdown, if you take, we have GDPR coming on. So what if the attacker is going to gain access to your customers' data? then you should be ready to pay the amount to the European Association. So these are various things that are coupled if the vulnerabilities are going to be exploited by hackers and attackers out there in the wild. So this draws the need for the right patch management tool. When I say a patch management tool, there are several conditions that have to fit in to make it completely secure your endpoints. It should be automated in the first place, right? From detection, deployment, reporting, and even customizing your deployment. All of these phases of patch management should be automated. Secondly, it should be an comprehensive solution. You should be able to patch your Windows OSs, your Mac, your Linux OSs, the different flavors of Linux, and let's not forget the third party applications. Even the vulnerabilities in third party applications are being rising exceedingly. So it is about a comprehensive, a single platform to help you patch across multiple OSs as well as third party applications. And it should just not stop with patching, but reporting and auditing should also be served with a patching tool. So keeping in mind all of these requirements, keeping in mind the security posture of today's IT world, where we are, what are we scared of, how many attacks are plaguing us, keeping in mind all of these, ManageEngine has 4 different offerings for you. So we have Desktop Central, which is a complete endpoint management suite. So it provides different endpoint management operations from software deployment to asset management to mobile device management. We have reports, system tools, you can perform remote control, and then importantly, patch management. So this will cater to the needs of endpoint management and endpoint security. So about Desktop Central MSP, this is offered for managed service providers and it comes as the MSP version with again all the endpoint management features. And thirdly, this is our best point product for patch management. So if you are looking at that one sole solution for patching your Windows, Mac, Linux, and 300 plus third party applications, then Patch Manager Plus is the thing that you are looking for. Some of you in this listening to this workshop might have had signed a deal with SCCM or WSUS. So worry not, guys, because we have Patch Connect Plus, which is an add-on to your SCCM. So this allows you to patch your third-party applications, because if you're going to use SCCM, you can patch only your Windows updates. So this Patch Connect Plus is going to allow you to deploy third-party application patches right from your SCCM. There's no other infrastructure required and no major learning curve required. So these are the 4 different offerings offered by ManageEngine for you to make your patching process more easy and simple. Remember, the whole IT world is under threat. There are a lot of cyber attacks happening. It is just New Year and we are facing with a massive CPU nightmare. So you need to have confidence in your patch management process. You need to make sure that all the devices are fully patched and stay up to date come what may. That is when you can relax saying that, okay, my enterprise is secure and safe. So what are you going to do about it? Because with the start of 2018, the Spectre and Meltdown are an early reminder that we have to adapt to a patching solution. We have to draw the first line of defense, the first line of security to secure our enterprises. So please do consider investing in the right patching solution, an automated patching solution that will make the whole of your patching process more reliable and safe. So you might have had any questions regarding this webinar, what we've spoken and discussed here, or any of your questions or queries about Spectre and Meltdown, you can ask them in chat. My expert panel right here with years of experience will help you in resolving those questions in real time. So please do send your questions via chat. We are happy to help you with our answers. And January's Patch Tuesday updates from ManageEngine. A breakdown on the Patch Tuesday updates from ManageEngine is a webinar scheduled for tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. EDT. So if you are interested in knowing about the various Patch Tuesday updates that have been released with respect to Meltdown and Spectre, if you want to stay up to date of these updates released for Meltdown and Spectre, then you can subscribe for this webinar. You will also have a drill down into the automated patch deployment feature, which will allow you to deploy patches, which will allow you to automate the A to Z of patching. So tomorrow we will have a more deeper and drill down version of Desktop Central. I will show you how you can deploy updates, how you can customize when and where to deploy these updates. So stay tuned with us for January's Patch Tuesday updates from ManageEngine tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. EDT. And coming to the interesting part, if you'd like a workshop, then please do fill in the survey that you will receive at the end of the workshop, where 1 is going to be sad and 5 is that happy style. Thank you all again for your active participation. We know how critical these security flaws are, and at ManageEngine, we're always focused towards providing you with the right solutions to secure your enterprise devices. So any questions, any queries that you have, you can ask us about Spectre and Meltdown, and we are ready to provide you with solutions as well as mitigations. So thank you all again for your active participation. You all have a good start to today.